Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Brand Pitch. In this episode I am once again joined by Chris from Y1. He's one of the co-founders along with Tom Carson. In this episode we talk about the new range that they've just launched for Paris, as well as the Black Friday prototype sticks that they've launched for the past few years, and we also get on to a little bit around what they look for in sponsorship. If you do enjoy these episodes and want to see more of them, head over to my website, which is bossfhockey.com, and join as a member, or alternatively you can go to patreon.com/bossfhockey and you can join up there. You get early access, you get bonus entries into giveaway, and you get a bit of behind the scenes information about the running of Boss F Hockey. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to this latest edition of Brand Pitch. Today I'm joined by my first ever two-time guest, which is Chris from Y1 Hockey. Chris, thank you very much for coming on.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, we've got you on to talk about your new range that you've just brought out, which is the Paris range, which has got some really interesting bits in. So let's start off with the question everyone wants to hear the answer to. Can you tell me a little bit about the envo stick?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the envo stick was a new development from the carbon manufacturer Techstream. So they've been trying to create a new sustainable material that's made from natural resources. So basically, whenever I flew out to the factory, that fabric had just landed on the desk. So it was a really lucky timing and a real great opportunity. And I saw this fabric and it looked amazing. And then I heard the story about it all being made from hemp and being weaved from hemp. And then Techstream had layered it up similar to the Techstream, the silver Techstream we use on the top end sticks. And so, yeah, went about, made a couple of samples, got Phil Roper, James Aubrey testing them. And yeah, the feedback was amazing. And essentially it's an X model stick, so top of the range. But the top layer, this hemp, it's not adding more power, but it's actually improving the soft touch when you're dribbling and trapping a ball. So basically, the feedback from Phil and Aubrey was the catalyst to us bringing into this range. And we moved so fast. We didn't have time to put it into a Black Friday prototype testing phase. We just went off their feedback. We're like, right, let's get this in. Let's be first to market. And yeah, it's been going down well.
So the rush is probably not the right term. The speed of which you sort of turn this around, is that why you only launched it on the LBX?
So I guess partially. I mean, we tested it with Phil and Aubrey on an LBX stick, and obviously that shape is our best seller. So we wanted to bring it in for a best-selling shape and just providing something a little bit different. Like, we wouldn't want to bring it in across the whole range immediately. We wanted to focus, really focus in on a model that people already love the shape of, and like, can we produce a stick that has a better touch and feel to it? So yeah, we brought it in as an X model and then a 70% carbon model as well. So we brought in two models, and that's typically even what we do after a prototype testing phase. Is like, we don't go X70. X90, 70, 50. We want to bring it into two models only and see the demand really and see the feedback.
In the Paris collection, you've got three versions of the LBX now. So you've got the envo, you've got the LBX, and you've got the Hendrix gold and white face stick. So obviously that's a popular one. You've just launched. Which one do you think is going to be the most popular this season?
Yeah, I think the LBX, the standard LBX in the silver Techstream yellow head, I think that one pops so much. Like when I was watching the Pro League, seeing Shipley using it, I mean, it just really stands out and looks pretty unique. So I think that one is always a bestseller. But in terms of like the whole season, I think if we just look at around this Olympic phase, we usually do a special stick for Hendrix for the Tokyo. For Tokyo, we did a special one where he was top goal scorer and won the gold with that golden stick, and it was only right to do it again. And yeah, hopefully he follows in the same footsteps and has a great tournament. But regardless of that, I think people just love love a limited edition stick, something themed around a special event like this. And then also the white face does, you know, his feedback on that, like disguising the ball more, definitely is filtering down to younger players. So I think in terms of like the immediate effect, that one is going to be the best seller. But then throughout the whole season, we'll see that the LBX, I think, will be the best. And then when you bring a completely new development into a range, like an envo stick, like it always takes a little bit longer for people to adopt it and the word of mouth to spread. So that one, and hopefully we see for years to come to be a really popular one.
Yeah, I do think you are 100% correct in that people love a special edition stick. Since I've got these two behind me.
Oh, there we go. Nice. That's great. Love to see it. Avid fan.
So let's talk about across the range. So a big change to your previous designs in that you've now got the X ranges all colored carbon. So how do you go about deciding which color is going to be associated with which profile?
Yeah, so essentially we've been trying over the last few years, well, you know, for a number of years, to keep a color associated to a stick, because then it means for the end consumer and just the general community, like the LBX always has yellow, the YLBX always has orange, and obviously we're shaping and changing the design each time, but we want that continuity of color. So most of our standard ranges will, you know, keep to a color over a number of years, and then sometimes feedback from retailers and from the community, like the GLB was pink, and then essentially in Europe we were seeing that some guys weren't buying the pink, so that's why we added the green. So the GGLB became a green stick, and basically it's the same stick, we just got a pink version and a green version to cater for all audiences. But yeah, trying to stay consistent over the years.
And so which one of the new ranges is your favorite?
Seeing as I'm a goalkeeper, I always love the GK stick that Ollie Payne is heavily involved in, and Toby Valter has been involved with the brand for a very long time, and he helped us originally, you know, come up with that the balance point and the shape. So yeah, I use that one personally. And then if I look at the outdoor range, I love the GLBX. I just think the pink carbon really pops and just looks. I just really like the look and feel of that, and hopefully Fraker can do some pretty exciting things with it this summer. Yeah.
No, I kind of guessed that would be your answer. Okay, so let's quickly have a run through of the range. So we've already touched on a couple of them. So in the range, we've got the MRX, or the MR range, I should say, and the ELB, which are both from your Black Friday testing. Now, I noticed the ELB only has the 70% version. Can you talk me through a little bit the decision making behind that?
Yeah, so I think it's, you know, through doing the prototype testing phase, we really get the opportunity to understand what the best layup is, and that's obviously feedback from a wide range of people, and obviously the internationals as well. And we found with that really large head shape, that when we went higher carbon percentage, the stick just became way too stiff. So actually, that is like the optimum carbon percentage we feel is where it should be. So yeah, we didn't want to produce an X model of that because it actually wasn't that nice a stick when we tested it. So it's all based on feedback of community, of the international athletes, and internally, like Tom Carson, my co-founders, you know, he's a pioneer in a lot of the shapes you see that come to life in Y1. So yeah, that's where we felt that made most sense. And also it's still a relatively new stick. So again, we don't want to do it across a wide range of sticks and hold tons and tons more stock. And also I think with that stick, the ELB, because it's so unique in the way it looks, it's harder for people to adopt it because it just looks so different. And I think, you know, we believe it's a really nice stick. I guess the only thing you can't do is inject with it. but everything else is like really quite nice. But again, like when you don't have a top international using that at the Olympics, maybe you don't have that validation point of like, right, so and so is using it, I'm going to give this a crack. So again, we've kept the stock holding of that relatively small. But yeah, we feel it's a really strong stick. But then yeah, the internationals are so set in their ways, like they have a stick they love and they don't really want to shift from that. So I'm not going to try and force Joop de Mol to go and move to that stick, for example. But when we have tested it with him, he can hit an unbelievable upright backhand with it. Yeah.
And I mean, you sort of mentioned it there. In your marketing, how do you decide between your sponsored athletes of who's going to be sort of the face of a profile?
It just sort of naturally selects itself. It's based on their preferences, and then we just build from there, really. So we aren't predefining it. It's really based on what the player wants. So Albury is the only guy at the Olympics who will be using the Envo LB stick. So yeah, naturally we market around him using that. And again, when we originally shot content back in April, like he wasn't using that. So we actually shot a lot of him using an LBX, and now he's using the Envo. So sometimes it doesn't always work out, but like I'm not there to try and shift the players to fit my marketing strategy. I just want whatever's best for them to perform on the pitch, really.
Okay, interesting. So looping back a little bit, we talked about the Black Friday sticks and how you've implemented them. As a brand for the past few years at least, Y1 have kind of tested the waters with your prototype range. Obviously, I've done multiple reviews of your prototype ranges. We've had discussions outside of the podcast about sort of what feedback you've got from people. What drove you to initially launch? Because I think you were the first brand to really do it. I know a couple have picked it up since, but that idea of doing these prototype sticks.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been doing it for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, yeah, as long as I can remember, to be honest with you, might be longer than that. And I think for us, it's just doing the prototype phase is for me the best way to get feedback, because I don't just want a top international testing a stick. Like if you want to be a brand that's used by a wide range of people, you need to use a subset of that community to test product, because again, the end user is going to be an over 50s player. It's going to be an under 14 player. So like, let's give them the opportunity to partake in that and give their feedback. So again, not everyone is going to be playing, 6 days a week in these different climates, like an international is. Like playing on a Saturday for your club is quite different. So yeah, it's just kind of trying to involve the community. So on two sides, it's like, one, I want feedback from a wider range of people rather than just making 10 tester sticks. I want 100 people to be involved in this. And then the second thing is like, it's really good for community engagement and making them feel part of the brand. And that's what we really want, is we want people to feel like they are actually valued in our decision making. So that for me is like so important. And that's why I absolutely love doing it.
And how do you decide what's going to become a Y1 prototype? Obviously, the past couple, especially, you kind of pushed the boat out with the now ELB stick and the blank from this past year.
Yes. How do we decide what becomes a prototype? I mean, it is a lot of it's driven from Tom and feedback from internationals. So like asking what they would want in a stick, and then Tom obviously has some ideas of how he thinks he can innovate a hockey stick and make it evolve more towards the modern game, which I think the blank definitely does. And so yeah, it's those discussions between Tom and the players and trying to take that on board. So like, we're not always trying to create, quite often we have had a new mold every single time, but we're not always trying to just create a new mold that's really different. We also need to test new materials. That in the world of carbon fiber, there's always something new coming out. It could be Textreamer doing something, the hemp thing, or forged carbon. And and different layups, and there's lots of different different things you can do to change up a hockey stick. And so we just want to we're just trying different things, to be honest with you. And sometimes and it is genuinely like real testing. So like I'm not doing a year of testing before the prototype stage. The prototype stage is often the very first bit of testing. So that's why we do it at these lower price points as well, because we don't want to be charging people full whack for these sticks, because they are genuinely testing and they might not love it. So I'm trying to take that risk factor away from the individual to want to partake in it. So we're currently working on some new ones for November now, and hopefully people will love what we're trying to come up with.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One thing I'd like to just add in for the future design: can you make them look different? Just it makes editing a real pain.
Yeah. So I guess the blank and the noir are exactly the same colorways. So this coming Black Friday, we will be making the designs look different. I guess sometimes we're like, we don't want it to be completely designed. We don't want people to choose based on like design, because we want it to be a genuine like equal testing pool. And we don't want it to be like, I'm just getting that because I love this design on it. We're trying to keep it pretty minimal like that. That's a big part of it. Like we don't want it to look like our other sticks. We want it to look like a prototype. We're not trying to get people to buy it based on like really bright designs. We want people to genuinely test, and that's another point, is like we don't give away a lot. And some people think it's like, we're trying to deceive people, or we're trying to be secretive, but in reality we're trying to create a genuine testing pool. And when I release a range of sticks, I'm like, the GLB is amazing for hitting a backhand and this is why you should buy it. But with a prototype stage, I don't want to say that, because I want people to tell me what they think of it. So that's the reasoning behind why we're sometimes like not giving away everything, because we want you to come back with us and see, what the power was like, what the first touch was like, what it was like 3D dribbling, rather than selling you the stick. I want you to tell me what you liked and what you didn't like about it.
Yeah, and I think that kind of blind testing is going to be really useful to you coming back. Obviously, the blank was a bit of an exception. I think anyone looking at it knows kind of what that's designed to accomplish. So going backwards,
what did you think about the blank? What was your thoughts on that? 'Cause it is quite extreme.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of drag flicking, it is an absolute weapon. I think goalkeepers like yourself probably hate it.
Yeah.
Because of how aggressive the shaping is. Not only can you add a lot of deception late on, but it also makes it kind of unpredictable to read, because you can use such varied techniques because of how all the elements work together. Full review on YouTube.
Yeah, go watch it. Exactly. I've been getting a bit of criticism for not launching it, because often, we will do the prototype testing phase and then the season after we release it. However, like we just want to do some more. Well, we have been doing some more testing off the back of the feedback, and we just want to create the best version of that possible. So that's why we didn't release it immediately, because I've seen the comments on socials being like, "Where's the blank? Where's the blank?" And it's like, it's not here yet, but we're still. It's not as if we've just gone that hasn't worked. People want it, but I just want to do a bit more to it to try and produce the best stick possible. So if you're after the blank, hold tight. It's not gone, but we're still working on it behind the scenes.
Yeah, and to touch on that, you talked about the feedback that you get. Obviously, you've launched quite a few sticks off the back of the Black Friday prototypes. How much do you tailor the final product based on that feedback you get? So you talked about the blank is still being a work in progress, because there's things that people have raised in that feedback. So obviously it's an ongoing design process. But how much change do you usually see between the prototype Black Friday stick and the final launch product?
Yeah, I mean, it depends year on year. Like sometimes it is exactly the same as the prototype, and other times it's more, it could be changing, it's changing the layup or changing balance point or weight. And then sometimes it's just what's the top layer? Are we putting a text stream on this, or do we not want that? And again, I guess we're trying to create sticks that aren't overly stiff, but they still generate load of power. So like, I think that's one thing that's quite important, especially to Tom, is like, you can whack as much carbon in a stick as you want, but like if it's just super stiff, then that's not really what we're after. So we're tweaking little bits here and there, and sometimes it's just the top layer, and sometimes it could be the balance point of the weight. But some sticks have been like genuinely exactly the same as the prototype was, and then other ones are based on some of that feedback. Will then do some more tweaking in the months following. Yeah.
And is there any of the Black Friday prototypes that you thought would get a stronger reaction than they did? Be that positive or negative?
That's a really good question. Anything I thought would get? I did think the ELB would get worse feedback just from the way it looks, and it's so different. But actually, the people that bought it, the feedback was really good. So that was one where we developed it, and Tom came up with this crazy thing. We looked at the rule book and maximized everything we legally could, and then I just thought, is that just something that's just wildly different? But actually, the people that went and got it did have good things to say about it. So that's one where it actually was better. The feedback was better than I thought it would be. And then, I'm trying to think the other way around. I mean, I'm sure there's been something years ago. Like, and again, like in the early days, we were trying different factories as well. So there might have been one where we worked with a factory and then actually the outcome wasn't very good, but like we now no longer work with that factory, so yes, there have definitely been things along the road, not so much recently, but along the way there's definitely been pros and cons and just constant learning, really.
You talk about the kind of two phases of testing. You've got your athlete testing, you've got the Black Friday testing. Which one to you as a brand do you think you put more weight behind when you're talking about how you're going to launch a product or what you can offer? For example, we've talked about the ELB stick being only available in the 70% because you thought it was too stiff if you went higher. So that was the nice balance point. Was that based more off of athlete feedback or the Black Friday feedback?
I think more the Black Friday feedback, because the athletes aren't using it, so it's like they didn't want to shift from their current stick to the new one. So it's like, I can take their word for it, but if they're not going to use it, it's like they don't, they're not moving from their LB they're using or the GLB they're using because they just love that stick and have probably used it for the last 4+ years. So in that instance, it's definitely more community led because 100 people have bought it, and they're the ones that I'm getting more feedback points from that than just doing a pitch session with athletes. And I mean, to be honest with you, like quite often the athlete feedback comes at the same time as the prototype. So like this new prototype range, we're not giving it to the athletes prior. So the community are getting the sticks at the same time as the athletes. I haven't done like a 6-month window with the athletes. So again, obviously our athletes, we take their points super seriously, but they're doing that at exactly the same time as the community. They both hold like equal weight, really.
That's interesting. So we talked a bit about the consumer feedback from the Black Friday sticks. What is your usual return rate on feedback from people buying it? To sort of how many as a percentage roughly do you think you get feedback from?
I do know this off the top of my head. It's about 50%. And again, maybe that's down to us like not pushing it enough, like sending follow-up emails and that sort of thing. So I think we can definitely get better at getting more answers out of people. But I think last year it was probably about 50% response rate. And we are asking a lot of questions, and we're asking you to test various different elements of the stick. And again, the time in the year is difficult. Like most it's around Christmas, like the league's finished, then you don't really restart to the end of Jan. So maybe it's difficult for them to give the feedback during that time. So to be honest, feedback for ourselves, we should probably be resending things out in Feb, in March, once they've had a bit more time, to those people that didn't fill it out in the first 4 weeks. So I think we definitely could get higher rates of feedback from people, but it's about 50% at the moment.
And with that feedback, do you do any follow-up sessions?
Really good point. We haven't been, and that's something we really need to improve. And I think that as a brand, as a growing brand, and start off, as just me and Tom shipping sticks from a garage, and just evolving every year. Sometimes we're trying to move so quickly that we get the feedback and we make changes. Yeah, you're 100% right to like engage the community more. It's like actually that post-purchase, not just the one form to fill out. It's like actually involving them more in the process would be valuable. So we definitely take that on board and like know that we can do a lot more. And it's going to benefit the community and benefit that community feel if there is more follow-up after the original form. So yeah, I get that.
Maybe something to implement for this next coming one.
Yeah, 100%.
If you respond to the feedback form, you might get invited to a group session or
I like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and we've grown the team a fair bit in the last 12 months, so we definitely have a lot more capacity in this larger team we have to like actually action these things. So we're definitely in a better place to make these things happen. Yeah.
Okay. So moving forward a little bit, I want to touch on something from the last episode. So at the end of the last episode, I asked you what you thought Y1 did that didn't get kind of as much praise as you thought it merited. And you say it was the teamware.
Okay.
That's improved.
When did we last do this? Was it how long ago? When was the last episode? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was 4 years ago now.
Wow. Yeah, and I need to go back. I need to go back and listen to it. So, in the last 4 years, the teamware that was actually quite a forward-thinking point of mine. So, in that last 4 years, the teamware has really come on leaps and bounds. So, yeah, we now our full teamware range is made from recycled materials, and I think the last 4 years we've grown from 3 clubs to 12 clubs to 36 clubs to 48 clubs, and now I think for this upcoming season we're on maybe 55 clubs in the UK. I think the most popular brand in national leagues. So yeah, I think now we're definitely getting the recognition for the teamwear, and that's really credit to George Carson and his team. Dale Hutchinson, who plays for Wales, he's a big part of that. And Ed, who does the operations, those guys have done a hell of a lot of work to like really make it, streamline the process and make it easier to order kit and clubs to be able to have online stores or in a retailer. So it's been a lot of hard work, and there's still lots of areas we can improve on. But yeah, really proud to see that journey the teamwear brand has been on. Yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
And the same question asked now, what would your answer be?
What's the one thing we don't get enough recognition for? Really good one. I think we are now getting quite a lot of recognition for things. I think we're getting recognition for things we do well. So I think there's a lot of positivity around the brand. Like people are very complimentary. So yeah, I'm like in a really great place with how we've grown over the last few years, and so yeah, I think people have the feedback's been awesome, and it's really great having that feedback from the community and people that and some people you don't know so well. Like giving that feedback is cool. I think I'm pretty happy with the. I don't know, anything you can think of. I'm not really sure.
So I think one of the things that is probably not noticed as much is how much Y1 is sort of reinvesting into their athletes. So For example, the Let's Stick Together podcast is obviously sponsored by Y1. I'm sure the budget is massive for the amount of editing needed to cut it down to what is broadcastable, with those three not in a room but in a call together. So that would be kind of what I would think is how you invest back into your athletes.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the podcast is, you know, that's really those guys come, you know, I have such little involvement in that. It's really down to them. Like, those guys are amazing, and I think what they're creating is amazing. I absolutely loved the episode, like post Euros final, hearing from three players that played in a real controversial game on opposite sides of the pitch. I mean, that was so cool. And yeah, that's all down to them. So I can't really take much credit. Obviously, with, you know, Theo is behind the scenes on that, editing it every single week. He turns that around so quickly, and Theo is an amazing guy, and he deserves recognition as opposed to Y1. But yeah, I think one thing is like that longevity with athletes. It's like, you know, we're trying to sign athletes for the long term, and I think it's been amazing, and I love going on the journey with them and like being really invested in their success. So like, you know, the people like Anna, Brendan, and Phil who took a leap of faith on us like right at the get-go to still be with us to this day is really cool. So yeah, that's been really a good part of the journey for me. And then it means when you go and then go to watch an Olympics, it's like I am so invested in them doing well, because like I've got to know them so, you know, every one of our athletes have got to know them so well. And that's one bit I definitely love. And I think one bit that doesn't get credit in our business is Jody is running Y1 Custom. So that's like the teamwear business is like signing up clubs on 3, 4, 5-year contracts, and being the exclusive kit provider. But she's running this leisure wear business that's provided, you know, the main product is the fleece. We do lots of custom leisure wear. And that makes up, you know, like a third of the business. And that bit's like just quietly just going in the background. We're kitting out so many university clubs, not just in hockey, but in every sport. I think that bit's just been quietly ticking away ever since me and Tom started the brand. And that bit definitely doesn't get the recognition, but that's more because we don't really push it massively on social. So like a big part of our strategy moving forward is like, right, that bit deserves to be a standalone brand, you know, for all sports and clubs and societies. And then we're really going to be pushing the socials on that bit, because yeah, it's just been ticking away. Jody's been doing an incredible job running a great team, and yeah, they don't publicly get the credit they deserve, but they make a huge impact to the business, and the revenue from that allows us to do exciting things and do community building things in the hockey business. So yeah, that's one area that we don't shout about as much.
And obviously, the most important question is, do they still do onesies?
I mean, the product's there if anyone wants it, but yeah, there's not really any demand. But it's good to see that as our starting origin. It's come a long way, and yeah, we've worked with the same factory for 13 years, so the product is still ready to go and waiting. But yeah, I reckon it'll have a revival in a couple of years' time. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if I don't call it out, I'll get no end of WhatsApp messages. Simon and Taff from Talk Hockey Radio like to take as much credit as possible for the revival of Let's Stick Together from when we had Phil and Brendan on as guests, and they basically bullied them into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it definitely doesn't have anything to do with me. But yeah, so yeah, they can definitely take all the credit.
Continuing on with Y1's marketing strategy. In my opinion, Y1 is one of the best marketed brands in hockey. How long does it take to plan out, for example, the new range? You've obviously been dropping videos with your athletes. How long did it take to sort of plan around that drop?
Yeah, so I think this lens, you know, so in terms of planning the marketing for the Paris range, yeah, it really lends itself to talking about NMF hockey. So like Nathan being our marketing manager, and me and him, you know, work really closely together. I got him to come over to the UK, play for Canterbury, the club I'm at, So just, again, I wanted him to come and be close to me so we could work really closely together in person. And that made a huge difference. Making that move for him. And I know it's not easy, like traveling to different parts of the world. But yeah, so yeah, it's quite a long time. And one of the reasons it's been, we've worked on it for a long time, is the rules around Paris Olympics is super strict. So key monuments in the city are off limits 90 days prior to the Olympics starting. So if you want to include like the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, Arc de Triomphe in your campaigns, you have to do that 90 days prior to the Olympics starting, which was around 18th of April. So, we went to Paris in like February and did a shoot there. So we did a photo shoot and shot video. And we did a fair bit of monument stuff and then a fair bit of non-monument. So that takes a bit of planning, you're like reading the rule book and then working back from that 90-day date and then going, right, when can we actually travel around our busy hockey schedule, still playing? So yeah, definitely we've put more into this one. And I think when it comes to an Olympic year, like you want to do more because again, the athletes can't be, another rules are like athletes can't tag brands during the Olympics. And that's, I guess, due to these bigger sports. Like if they have personal brands, they can sort of hijack the Olympics with, wearing a Rolex when you're doing the 100-meter sprint, like to get Rolex exposure if they're not an official sponsor of the Olympics. So the Olympics are trying to protect their official sponsors. And so, yeah, it makes it really difficult. So, I've had to shoot loads of interview content with athletes prior to this. Like, so we'll say to the athlete, be like, right, imagine you've been selected and this video is going to come out, 2 weeks before the tournament. So again, it's hard to put them in those shoes as well. It's like they haven't been selected yet. And some of them are really uncomfortable with that. So like, we just don't do it, so because they don't want to jinx it or if they're superstitious. So yeah, definitely a lot of planning's gone into this. I think the best thing we did was me and Nathan went on the road for 5 days and we went and did a shoot in Hamburg. Then we did a shoot in Eindhoven, then in Brussels, then in London. And so we did it literally back to back, day to day, no breaks, and just like absolutely smashed it out. And that's the way I like to work. We want it to be we want high intensity and high energy. And yeah, it worked really well. So it just meant we were quite prepared in April, but obviously that means a bucket load of editing. So that's still in the works now. It's still a load of raw content that hasn't been edited, and we're still working on that week by week.
And of that, what was your favorite bit to shoot? Was it the bit with Nathan where you sat at a cafe in Paris just because it meant you got to go and sit at a cafe at Paris, or was it some of the player stuff?
Paris was really cool. Love that one. It is that was great. But I do think shooting with athletes is always the funnest part of the job. Being a founder, you have to wear many hats and do many different things, but that is by far my favorite part. Those few days I get to spend with them and have them dedicated to the brand is really exciting. And we have one really cool piece of content that hasn't gone out yet. That is basically a race to Paris with I think 4 or 5 of the GB men. So we did this race to Paris idea, and it'll be coming out soon. I don't know when it'll come out in relation to when the podcast comes out, but that bit for me was the funnest thing because it's like it's not all on a hockey pitch. The majority of it's off the hockey pitch, and like me and also all my team got involved, like all the London-based team all got involved in that shoot. So people that never usually get to be involved in shoots, like customer service agents, operation managers, like we got everyone involved. So that was so fun, and yeah, hopefully the edit is cool, but we'll see. Yeah, stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, I think Phil and Brendan talked about that in a Let's Stick Together episode, and it sounds like it's going to be really exciting to watch. So I am actually looking forward to that one coming out.
It's so difficult to know if it'll actually be as good on social as it was on the day, because on the day it was just like it was really chaotic, and we had like our team members all filming different groups of people. Like it was a race in teams against each other. So whether the finished project actually lives up to how fun the day was, I don't know, but we'll see.
And you've mentioned him there, Nathan from NMF Hockey, obviously is now working as part of Y1. At what point did you come across him on social media?
Yeah, so it was early in lockdown. I just thought he was trying something really different and he was putting himself out there. And I think people in hockey people in general, like it's really hard to put yourself out there on socials. Like you know, the fear of failure factor is so big because you're putting yourself out there to a community you love and you're big and you're part of. So it's like if you get negative criticism off the back of it, it's like you feel it's like a character defamation. So I just loved he was just giving it a crack and going for it. And I think yeah, he just really inspired me when I first saw him. Yeah.
And how long was it sort of between you discovering him to you inviting him to be part of the brand and then invariably coming and joining as a member of staff?
Yeah, so must have sponsored him for 2 or 3 years. Well, we built up a relationship. So yeah, I'd meet him at the EHL in person, and then we went to the Pro League together. And so just several different times when we met in person. And yeah, I think I just knew that what he was doing was something really special and something I wanted to get more involved than just being a sponsored athlete. I wanted him to be actually involved in the creative direction of the brand. And then, yeah, it's all a bit of a blur. I can't really remember, like, obviously approaching him to be like, right, come to Canterbury. And yeah, the club will help out with certain things. And I'll also help out with certain things and get you a role in the business. And yeah. And then finally we did it. So yeah, that was a really cool journey.
I look forward to seeing a documentary style interview with him talking about it in future.
Yeah, you should get him on.
I am trying.
Yeah.
So continuing on with Y1 as a brand, how do you look and pick out players for sponsorship? Because obviously being such a popular brand on social media, I'm sure you are inundated with requests for sponsorship.
Yeah, good question. So we don't really do like a headhunting approach to like getting new athletes. We want to work with athletes that like what we're doing and buy into the brand and the vision and the values. Yeah, because if you just go and approach a player, then let's say top international, then I think it always comes down to money, and that tends to be the factor thereafter. Like if you go chasing them, so again, we're just it's sort of just comes naturally, and also word of mouth from existing athletes. That's probably the best way of finding new players, and that's how the Yoop discussion started, because obviously he knew Phil really well from Oranje Road, and yeah, it just all came pretty naturally. So I think that's we don't have any sort of amazing strategy, and sometimes we'll go a long time without signing anyone, and that's just because like we're not on the offensive, always trying to find find that player. I think that's when it comes to like senior internationals, and then I guess junior internationals, junior players. Again, we're just really trying to follow their journey and be a brand that's like really in the sport. So like obviously the fact that Tom still plays, Tom does some coaching for England. I'm still playing. Most people in our business all still play. So everyone's got their ear to the ground and know who's like pushing on. Yeah, we're just paying like real close attention, and then those younger players that are really promising, then we then try and work with them more closely, or their parents more closely, to be like, right, we want to work with you for the long term. Yeah.
When people submit their application, is there any element that you would like to see more of that just isn't present? Like, for example, taking coaching roles, taking umpiring roles, things like that.
Yeah, so I think for me, like if you're out of the junior program and you're now university or above, and let's say you're not gonna become a senior international, but maybe play national league. For me, I think coaching roles are extremely valuable because you have more impact and more eyeballs on what you're doing, and if you're coaching these players, like they're gonna listen to you and take advice from you. So that for me is a really important one, because I just think, like, if you're just playing first team at a club, how many people are really watching? So if you're just relying on your playing, like we're not a massive sport where we're getting thousands down to watch games. That's one thing. Yeah, coaching is really important. And then I think for me is like, again, because there's not hundreds of people going to watch matches. So again, you have to have a social presence, like, because that, we're obviously really big on socials and it's a big part of our strategy. So I think as a player, like, you need to have some sort of public profile. If you've got a private account, maybe if your personal stuff, that's fine, but like you probably should have a hockey account that is, that is showing you, your photos of you playing, and if even better is like producing your own content. And I think there's so few hockey content creators out there, and in other sports, like there's so many. It's like, for me, the obvious thing is just go and film more stuff, because like you're going to stand out because the pool of people doing it is so small. And Nathan will vouch for that as well. It's like, it's just getting over the fear of like actually doing it, and putting yourself out there a little bit more. But obviously it's not for everyone. I get that. I'm not massive on my personal socials at all. But yeah, it's definitely an element we look at.
For anyone looking to get Y1 sponsored, there you go. There's some golden information for you to take away and implement. So around sponsorship, you might remember this from the last interview, you might not. Going into the Olympics, is there any player you wish you could transfer into Y1 as a sponsored athlete?
Yeah, I do remember you asking me that. I think someone like Yorick Kroon is. I might have said that last time. Someone like Yorick Kroon he's just like incredible player, the most amount of flair. I just think he's a real fun player to watch. And I think a lot of kids are inspired by him, at his club and for country. I think he's an admirable player. That's pretty cool. On the women's side, basically any of the Dutch girls, they're all they're just so good. Their basics are incredible. They're so calm on the ball. They're cool. Yeah. Not saying I would go after any Dutch player, because I'm like so delighted with Freke being like the figurehead of our brand in the Netherlands on the women's side. And we're so lucky to have worked with her since she was like an under 18 player. But I don't really have a clear answer, because I'm so happy with everyone we have in the brand, and it's not as if I'm like really missing out. But there's obviously some amazing players out there.
Following on from that, by the next round of Olympics, where would you like to see Y1 grow more? Because obviously, since the last time we spoke, you were kind of a UK and starting to get a foothold into Europe. You've got more of a foothold. You've moved into the European market. You've now got a slightly bigger base in the US, and you're starting to spread out there, which is something that came around shortly after the last one. So where would you like to see Y1 go by the next Olympics?
Yeah, so I think we're on the right track, and I think, like, I can't artificially create this crazy growth. Like, we're a sport that is, it's not drastically changing, and And I think, you know, it's just having that patience, like, you know, getting older in my startup, you know, career, and like running the big, you know, hockey business has been around since just after Rio Olympics. Like, you know, it's having, you know, having patience is something that I didn't used to have, and I wanted to grow. And now I'm like, right, you know, we're on the right track, and I just need to be patient, and I think we will get there. I'm really confident of that. I think we can be a leading global brand, and you know, people are putting trust in us. So like, yeah, we now have, you know, distributors in, you know, Australia, New Zealand, USA, South Africa, Argentina, and most recently Europe. We signed a deal with THW, who also do Adidas hockey. So they've obviously seen like some great potential in us, and really like what we're doing, and that it's more fun and free flowing than what Adidas do, because they are going to obviously be constrained by what headquarters will allow, and you know, they've got strict brand guidelines, whereas we're a lot more like trial and error. Let's test things out. Let's give things a go. And yeah, signing that deal with them, I'm confident that the European growth in the next 4 years is going to be is going to be really. You know, I'm going to look back on it and be really happy. And yeah, I'm sure in 4 years' time I'll be like, wow, I can't believe how far we've come. So yeah, I think there's, you know, Europe's a crowded market, but you know, we're in there with the right people, and we've got some great athletes who have been like, you know, working with us for a few years now, and really putting that faith in us that we are going to get there. So yeah, I think Europe's the one we really want to crack, and then we're also seeing like South Africa is really booming, and like places like New Zealand are booming. And yeah, so I think UK has been like, we've been so focused on the UK. It is what we know best, and we're part of that community. I think now we have these distributors on board who like all have a much better insight to their market than I do, and having those, you know, amazing partners, I think that's going to be the route to being more of a global brand. So I think, you know, I really want to keep the momentum in the UK, but then also it is working more closely with those partners in other regions to push on, because yeah, we're definitely not the same, considered to be the same sort of business. You know, when people from the UK think of Y1 versus someone in the Netherlands think of Y1, it's probably completely different perspectives. So, you know, we need to kind of get those closer together so that we have that same feeling in more regions.
And as you roll out into more regions, are you going to mirror some of the strategies you used in the UK when you were first kind of growing? Like the pop-up shops, for example, is one that's been brought up to me by people on social media and on my Discord, of how you used to rock up at an event, have a stall outside. I remember Pro League specifically, when it was at the Stoop. I think you rocked up and set up by an ice cream van. I can't remember if you brought the ice cream van yourself or not, but got people playing around with sticks and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was such a fun story. I lived in Shoreditch, which was not far. Well, sorry, I lived in Shoreditch, which is London, obviously London based. And this ice cream van used to pull up in the summer on my street every single hot day and play the music. And I would be working from home, and I'd be like, and then I was like, it's happening at the Stoop, but then like, that's a really cool special event. It's like, how do I get involved in it? Do I just go and fly her outside the venue? I was like, that's a bit boring. And I went and just spoke to the ice cream man. I was like, hey, like, can I prepay for like 500 ice creams for you to turn up at the Stoop during this event? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So again, that was just like, just that startup mindset of like just giving things a go. And it might seem a bit ridiculous, but yeah, it was cool, and it made a bit of impact. So yeah, I think in other regions, you know, we are kind of being led. You know, we're giving advice, but we're being led by, they know their markets better than us. But obviously they can see what we're doing. And we're trying to like help them more on the social side, so like how to improve their social media strategy, and then also like we're traveling to some of these places and doing content in these regions to boost the exposure with collaborations with athletes. And I think the world has evolved a little bit more, you know, like this collaboration feature on Instagram is a really valuable one, and one where you can, you know, reach the athlete's audience and reach your own audience. And so yeah, it's definitely more of a social strategy. But yeah, in those same regions like USA, like JJ goes to like 12 events a year and sets up Y1 booths at the event. And he basically goes to where the footfall is, because it's such a, just a big country, and you need to get visibility in those places. And in Australia, that they've set up a shop, a physical shop at one of the biggest hockey stadiums. So they're all sort of taking their own spin on it, which is amazing to see. And yeah, again, I can't take credit for that. They're the ones that are really leading the way. And I just sometimes give these little bits of advice of what worked for us and what didn't. Yeah.
So to wrap things up, I usually like to ask the golden ticket question of who would you like to sign, because I thought you might see that coming. What I'd like to ask you is there any product you want to launch as part of Y1 that you don't currently offer?
So I guess the easy answer is the new product. Well, we obviously in lockdown did the Skiller mat, and that absolutely blew up. And it was very like makeshift. I was like hand making some of them in a warehouse, and then Tom's dad and brother were helping make some, because with COVID, like it wasn't possible to go and like mass produce these things. So it was very hands-on, but they sold incredibly well, and they provided a purpose to be able to practice skills at home. And what we've seen over the last few years is like there's a lot of young players that maybe if they get on a pitch twice a week, they're lucky. So it's like actually there's still a lot of skill development you can do at home. So like I guess the new thing we want to launch is like an innovation of the basic Skiller mat we produced, and produce something different to anything else on the market. So again, I guess the important part of that is we want to do it at an affordable price point. I think that's a product for the masses. And again, I don't want to make something that's priced so only only a certain person can buy it. So two things on that is like one, it being different, providing the ability to play when you don't have access to a pitch, and having it at a price point which is attainable. And I think if we can release a product that has those three things, I think that'll be really exciting, and something different to what we're doing. And then on the wider thing, I don't really have a product that I'm like absolutely desperate to release, in all honesty. I don't have something completely that comes to mind when I'm like, unless you've got something you really want to see us do.
No, I was interested to see whether or not there was any Y1 shoes or goalkeeping equipment in the pipeline, but I think the Skiller mat is a really interesting one.
I think the shoe market is crowded. I mean, the hockey market is crowded in general, but the shoe market is more difficult, and there's some people doing it incredibly well. So it's like, I'm not going to get into something if I don't feel I can produce something that's different and really special. I don't just want to produce another shoe. And also, like, you have to hold, it's a big investment. You have to hold so many different sizes, so many different colors. And then the stock management of that is like, if one goes really well, what the lead times? Do you have to buy a full shipping container worth of these? And also, like Adidas, I think just do it really well, and some other brands are doing it really well as well. So like that for me isn't one I want to jump into. I think it would just drain resources and investment into other areas, which I don't want to spread ourselves too thin.
No, I completely understand. So to finish up, we've talked about what you think is the kind of underappreciated areas of Y1. What is your favorite element that Y1 do? That could be socials, that could be products, that could be the innovation with the Black Friday stuff. It's completely up to yourself.
Yeah, I think it's the favorite thing we do in the brand is like anything that involves the community. And I think that's just the core part of our business, and we always come back to that. And I say the word a lot. And I think a lot of people say the word community, but I genuinely feel like we are building something that's like bigger than ourselves. And it's amazing to hear these people I don't even know like talking positively about it. So you know, I want to spend more time on things that involve the community, whether that's, you know, donating more sticks to Ghana. Like, we've done the trip, we've seen the issues, we've seen how we can help, and you know, that's something we're about to launch, is like the stick donation scheme to Ghana. And we've taken longer than we should have done to get it going, but I think it's like we want to do it really well, and like speaking to the guys in Ghana that we know well, being like, right, how do we execute this, and how do we actually help you, rather than just like doing it as a marketing campaign. So yeah, that's one way where first of all, we want to get all our 55 clubs we work with on board, to give them an easy route to donating product and us getting it back over to Ghana in the most efficient way possible. So that's community building, whether it's supporting more community projects in the UK, like Spencer Links is an awesome case study of like getting local kids into hockey that never would have tried the sport otherwise if it wasn't for these amazing volunteers. And like, if I can get involved in more programs like that in the UK, I would love to. And then again, that the Black Friday prototype testing thing is another great one. Yeah, the media days we do with sponsored athletes, that not the top internationals. I want to do more with the junior international, not junior internationals, but junior players, and involve them in a media day, because they're the ones that live and breathe like TikTok and that sort of thing. Whereas some of our older athletes aren't even on there. So it's like, yeah, sorry, I'm sort of waffling, but as you can tell, it's like anything that involves a community engagement is what I want to do. And again, running a business is hard and time consuming, and often that falls to the side. So it's like, how do I create a business where actually I do have the opportunity to do these? And because if I keep saying the word community and then don't do anything for the community, then it's like I'm just like rinsing the word. And sometimes I haven't been able to make enough impact. So I think, you know, in the years to come, we just want to make more impact. But to be able to do that, I need to get the right people in the business running it, so I can actually action these things. Yeah.
No, I think that's a fabulous answer. So we'll wrap things up. Thank you very much for your time.
Nice. Yeah, really appreciate having me on. It's always great to catch up with you. You've always got great insight, and you're so knowledgeable about the sport and product. Yeah, it's awesome chatting to you.